So tell me about what position you retired from and what your horticultural specialization was.
Okay, the position I retired from had absolutely nothing to do with horticulture. I retired as the Associate Vice Provost for Institutional Accreditation. The reason I got that position, I'd been in the College of Ag office as the Associate Dean, and the new Chancellor was somebody I knew because he had been Dean down at University of Florida. And he was working on his strategic plan, and when the institution was getting ready for reaccreditation, they said, "Mary, I want to talk to you. I have an opportunity." And when the Chancellor office calls, you go. And that's how I got that position. And I've been, prior to that, the Associate Dean, and prior to that, a department head. And that's what took me to the University of Tennessee.
Okay.
Prior to that, I had been a faculty member at Kansas State in the horticulture department, where I taught herbaceous plant material for a while. I taught greenhouse management. I taught floral crop production and foliage plant ID course.
Okay.
And I had a research appointment.
Okay.
But mostly I had like a 70% teaching appointment and about 30% research appointment.
Okay. Very good. Thank you. So what has horticulture meant to your life and career?
Oh, what has it meant to my life and my career? Basically, my earliest memories of horticulture were pulling weeds in my mom's yard, her garden, when I was like 5 years old. So horticulture has always been part of my life. And now that I'm retired, it's a huge part of my life because I maintain our gardens at home, and I'm a volunteer with the University of Tennessee Gardens in Knoxville, where I have an adopted bed spot. It's my little area to take care of. But horticulture has just always been there as part of my life. I actually started studying botany when I was an undergraduate, and I realized botany wasn't the aspect of plants that I wanted. And it really was horticulture, where you're working with them and you're learning how to use them, as opposed to just looking at them through a microscope.
Right. Yeah, I can relate to that. So what was the most rewarding part of your career in horticulture?
Oh, the most rewarding part, I would say, is my work with students, because to this day, I still, thanks to Facebook, in connection with a lot of my former students, who I haven't seen in decades. I can say decades, but it's just been so fun to see what they're doing today, and their kids, and I have one that's got her own grandchildren. So when I travel now, it's like I can stop in a lot of places and say, "Hey, I'm going to be in the area. Can we get together?"
Yeah.
And so it's just the interaction I had with the students and how I've been able to stay in touch with so many of them over the years and watch their careers.
Yep.
And to me, that's what has been so fulfilling in hindsight. And I didn't realize it at the time, but I do now.
Yeah. No, I've heard several people say that, and I've only been at this about 10 years, but I can start to kind of relate to that. But that's a fun part of the job.
Yeah, it is.
So. All right. How long have you been a member of ASHS, and how did the society influence your career?
How long have I been a member? I started graduate school in Falls Quarter, 1975, at The Ohio State University.
Yeah.
And that very first quarter, I was told, you need to join ASHS. And I joined ASHS as a graduate student member in fall of 75.
Wow.
And I've been a member ever since.
So 47 years? Am I doing the math right?
Yeah, that'd be about right.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's amazing. So can you point to any particular meeting or anything about, I guess, your involvement in the society that maybe influenced the trajectory of your career in terms of networking or...
Probably the one activity that I got involved with, I had a faculty member when I was a graduate student at Ohio State, Tom Fretz, who became a department head, and he hired me at Kansas State. And he was very much involved in ASHS at different levels. And I found out after the fact that he was the one that was suggesting I serve on this committee, or suggesting my name. And somehow along the way, I ended up on the ASHS Strategic Planning Committee, which was back, I don't know, in the 80s sometime, because I was faculty member by that point. And I got to know a lot of the senior members through that work. And it really gave me a lot of connections, and I got to see the inner workings of the society, and that actually helped me in my ability to become a department head and then an associate dean and then working with the chancellor on institutional accreditation, because it's all about process.
Yeah.
And I had a colleague at the University of Tennessee that was, really how did someone in agriculture do this work? And I said, it's nothing more, getting ready for the accreditation report and the visit. I said, it's like crop production. I know the target day I need that crop ready.
Yeah.
And you just work everything backwards from that. She looked at me and goes, well, that's all what planning processes are all about. I said, yeah, and that's what production is all about. It's a planning process.
Yeah.
And so I think the work that I did as a faculty member and my opportunities of working on the strategic planning committee, setting benchmarks and knowing when we're going to need to see results and what are the measures for those results. It's like today, everyone's got to do student learning outcome assessment. Well, what are the results we want?
Right.
How do we know we've gotten there? And so a lot of those processes help me advance in my career. So It's not any one thing or any one person. I think it's a collective effort and the interaction you have with people.
Right.
Like to this day, I still tell younger faculty, if you need someone just to bounce ideas, to talk something out, I will listen. Because you need someone who you can talk to who's not your supervisor, your department head, or even maybe a colleague. You just need somebody to talk to. And I'm always there willing to listen because someone listened to me. Yeah. And so to me, it's all connected.
Yeah.
And so I just have always valued what ASHS has given to me.
Yeah. Very cool. All right. What advice can you offer to students or young professionals in horticulture?
What advice? Probably the one piece of advice is not to be afraid. There may be something that challenges you, and at first you go, I don't think I can do that. But take a deep breath and think through what it is that they're asking you to do, and then say, well, maybe if I did it this way or that way, I can accomplish what needs to be done. But don't be afraid. And if I was afraid when I started my career, I probably would not have been able to start my career because I was the first woman hired in the department. I became the first female department head of a horticulture department. And if I'd been afraid of doing that, I would not be where I am today. So learning not to be afraid and just having the attitude that I can do this. Yeah. It may not be the way they expect it done, but I can get it accomplished.
Yeah.
And I think that's important to understand.
Yeah. You're a trailblazer. My daughter reads books about women trailblazers.
Does she really? Yeah. Oh, how wonderful.
Yeah. You would fit right into that book as the first female department head. All right. So what excites you most about the future of the horticultural industry and profession?
Well, I go back to when I was teaching, and we used to talk about how the Great Depression, the one industry that didn't get hurt during that was the horticulture industry, because people started growing stuff at home, and the whole retail business survived. And it's kind of like that with COVID. Horticulture boomed during COVID.
Yeah.
And so we again, it's like taking advantage of seeing where there's a problem and how can we find the solution. And COVID was a problem, but the industry was able to find solutions to help people learn how to garden, how to produce their own fruits and vegetables in the garden, or do house plants or just flowers, and the whole pollinator movement right now. There's just a lot of things that people are rediscovering about horticulture that we can teach people about, whether it's our own students or the public through master gardeners or whatever venue we have. But I think knowing that there's always going to be something new on the horizon and being up to the challenge. And I really think we have a good future, because we've shown from the past that we can always survive bad times because we get a good time come up after that. And, to me, I'm optimistic because I see all these succulents and it's like, God, I haven't seen succulents in the market for years, and now all of a sudden everyone wants to grow succulents, and there's an opportunity there. So what are those opportunities? Always looking for those opportunities. They're always going to be there. It's just having the imagination and figuring out what it's going to be.
Yeah.
So I think we got a great future.
Yeah, I agree.